An attempt to impeach South Korea's President Yoon Yeol has failed after lawmakers from his own party boycotted the vote. The opposition coalition had filed the impeachment order in response to the president's attempt to impose martial law on Tuesday.
During a noisy session in South Korea's National Assembly, marked by protests, efforts to impeach President Yoon Yeol for declaring martial law fell apart. There were too few lawmakers in Parliament to approve the measure after members from Yoon's own ruling People Power Party staged a walkout. President Yoon's gamble on apologising publicly but refusing to leave office paid off.
I'm very sorry and would like to sincerely apologize to the people who were shocked. Regarding the declaration of martial law, I will not avoid any legal or political responsibility. There will never be a second declaration of martial law. I leave it up to my party to take steps to stabilize the political situation in future, including the issue of my term in office.
Leaving his fate in his party's hands suggests he has no plans to bow out, potentially causing days of chaos. The military rule lasted just hours, until lawmakers from the opposition party broke through the lines of soldiers surrounding the parliament and overturned the order. President Yoon's actions have divided South Koreans.
Yoon hasn't done anything wrong, has he? What has he done wrong? If there's something wrong, let's talk about it. I strongly support President Yoon Yeol.
Yoon labels those who disagree with him as pro-North Korea and has even gone so far as to declare martial law, causing widespread anxiety among the public. At this point, I just want him to step down voluntarily. Protests calling for the president to go have been going on day and night. But for now, President Yoon is clinging to power, backed by his party.
We can now speak to DW's East Asia correspondent, James Chater, who joins us from the South Korean capital, Seoul. Good to see you, James. So just how much of a surprise was today's failed impeachment vote?
Well, I think not necessarily a surprise that it didn't go through, but the manner in which this all transpired certainly was shocking, not what anyone was expecting over the course of today. The parliamentarians were essentially ready to take this vote. Actually, there was another vote that the lawmakers were voting on immediately before the impeachment proceedings were about to start. Then, moments before it was about to begin, we saw this mass exodus of lawmakers from Yoon's own party leaving the chamber and refusing to go back. There were only a handful of those lawmakers that stayed in the chamber to carry on. But because the quorum wasn't reached for the vote, the proceedings had to be stopped. Again, this was really important because to impeach a South Korean president, you need to get a 2/3 majority of the 300-member parliament. Opposition parties have about 192 seats, so you needed to see at least 8 members of Yoon's own party breaking ranks and voting to impeach him for that to go through. Because all of them simply left the building, Yoon has remained in power.
Well, prior to the vote, there were indications that even members of the president's party did believe he should step down. So why this sudden U-turn?
Yeah, I think there's been kind of conflicting sentiments coming out of the ruling party, because we saw the leader of Yoon's party come out saying that he believed that Yoon should be suspended from office. But what some of the ruling party members are saying is that although he should be kind of taken away from having administrative power, that he shouldn't be completely removed from office. And now some people are reading between the lines with this sort of thing and suggesting that the ruling party is more concerned about their electoral prospects. Of course, if a South Korean president is impeached, and it successfully goes through the constitutional court, a new election for the presidency has to be held within 60 days. And I think there would be some concerns within the ruling party about their prospects in that election if it was forced to take place. But there are really bigger questions now about who exactly is in control in South Korea, in the South Korean government. We saw Yoon Suk-yeol in that address earlier on this morning saying that he was handing over, in some sense, administrative power to the government and his own party. So I think the question people are asking is who is in charge now in South Korea, and I think that's something that opposition lawmakers will be really looking to put to the South Korean people, but also the parliament. And we've already seen those opposition parties say that they're looking to go ahead with new impeachment proceedings, possibly as early as next week.
Well, we have been seeing very angry demonstrations in front of the parliament building calling for the president's impeachment. What does the general public think about what's been happening?
Protesters have been gathering outside the National Assembly every day since that martial law declaration was made, mostly in opposition to Yoon Suk-yeol. Today, people started gathering again hours before this impeachment proceedings, impeachment proceedings were meant to begin. Again, the vast majority of the thousands of people, really thousands of people that were outside the National Assembly were in opposition to Yoon Suk-yeol. A small proportion of those were in support of him. But you really saw a mood change over the course of this period of a few hours where South Korean politics was essentially in limbo. That we weren't really sure whether the vote was going to go ahead, whether the motion was simply going to expire. And in that period of time, I have to say this boulevard in front of the National Assembly felt like a K-pop concert. Even though these people were in opposition to Yoon Suk-yeol, there was loud music playing, speeches being made. The atmosphere really changed when it became clear that the vote was going to have to be abandoned altogether. I was there when that became clear down at outside the National Assembly. People began screaming very angrily. And again, you have to think that even though Yoon Suk-yeol has managed to evade being impeached in this particular instance, that this frustration that South Korean people feel with the way he managed the martial law declaration and the way his ruling party have fallen behind him and helped him escape this impeachment vote means that there's the frustration that they feel is unlikely to subside.
That was DW's James Chater in Seoul for us. Thanks a lot, James. And we can now speak to journalist Joon Ha Park, who joins us from South Korea's capital, Seoul. Welcome to DW. So explain to us why the members of President Yoon's own party decided to boycott the impeachment vote.
Thanks for having me back. It's quite the confusion on the ground. I was just at the protest in front of the National Assembly on the vote, and we were watching it live stream at the protest with all the other journalists and all of the other protesters. It does seem that the PPP has, in fact, invoked a walkout. Only 3 PPP members, one stayed in his seat after the first vote against a special probe into the First Lady, Mr. An Chol-soo. 2 others, Ms. Kim Ye-ji and Mr. Kim Sang-wook, came back after calls from the DP for the PPP to stop the boycott and protect democracy. The reasoning behind the PPP actually boycotting the impeachment was due to they gave the reasons of going against the DP's principles, saying that it was too fast an impeachment, it was rushed, and they wanted to do it on their own terms. Whether that resonates with the people on the ground, it's still something that remains to be seen, and the people that I've spoken to have disagreed immensely against the PPP's actions tonight.
Well, it is quite interesting to observe that initially members of the president's own party had supported impeaching him. So what made them change their minds, and what's really behind this U-turn?
Well, Mr. Cho Kyung-tae, a senior lawmaker within the People Power Party, the president's ruling party, initially stated that he would be very much in support of an impeachment bill that was going ahead with the going ahead with the Democratic Party. Mr. Han Dong-hun, the leader of the PPP, he has also voiced his support not exactly for impeachment, but the removal of President Yoon from office and also the stopping of his presidential or halting of his presidential duties. The U-turn that we have seen from Mr. Cho Kyung-tae and the rest of the PPP, barring the 3 members who were still present in the National Assembly Hall at the time of the vote, that's something that's still left to be explained. The PPP lawmaker, I had the chance to talk to one of the last remaining North Korean defector turned lawmakers that is currently a representative within the PPP, Mr. Park Chung-kwon, who told me that he would not have voted in support of nullifying martial law even because he believed that it was in support of the DP's agenda of pulling down the president at the time. He unfortunately did not have the chance to decide whether to vote or not within the plenary session at the time, as he was still in the PPP headquarters building, which was 10 meters away from the 10 minutes away from the National Assembly. And what we can see here is something that comes as a barrel to our voters, our people. Our people cannot understand the objectives of the PPP at this point. The PPP have since announced that they would come up with a better solution than the DP's impeachment bill against the president's insurrection of martial law on the National Assembly building and its own citizens. So it's still something that's very much a source of confusion and a source of anger for the citizens that are currently on the ground and also the citizens that are watching from home.
That was journalist Joon Ha Park reporting from Seoul, South Korea. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you very much.